Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, 18th to 20th January, Gandhinagar.
You've probably seen him in cooking shows yelling down at contestants who don't know what to do. But here in Mumbai, Marco Pierre White is going to look at Indian cuisine perhaps in a whole new way. It's my pleasure today to speak with this world-famous chef. Marco, welcome to Mumbai and thank you for speaking with us.
Hello, Tam.
Tell me, Marco, are you as scary in real life as you seem on all of these cooking shows? Because you seem to terrify the contestants.
Well, firstly, I've never found myself scary. Secondly, I think TV is an interesting vehicle because if you imagine sometimes when we do a service, it might be 3 hours long and they condense it down into 2 minutes and take all those rich and juicy bits and because that's what the viewing public want to see. My job really is to make sure that customers are fed to the best of their abilities within a time frame. But when you're making TV, you also have a duty to those contestants to bring out the best of them, because it's those skills that you teach them about being able to absorb pressure, deliver under pressure, consistency, consistency, consistency. And so therefore what you're doing is you're showing them something and giving them insight into how to survive. Because if you're going to survive a kitchen, especially a kitchen at the highest level, you've got to be able to absorb pressure. You've got to be able to deliver.
So is it always like that in the kitchen? Is it a high pressure job all the time? Because when people think of cooking, they think of something they do for fun, if apart from the daily chore. Something which gives people pleasure at the end of it.
Some kitchens, there's no pressure because all the food is brought in. And then you've got other kitchens where everything comes in and it has to be prepared within a time frame before lunch, within a time frame before dinner. And so you have to push and you have to work very hard. So kitchens which tend to be at that highest level, that's where the pressure comes in, when you've got to deliver food bang on an a la carte menu and deliver it. There's a fly there. I'll say that again. Did you see that fly?
We'll get it out.
It bounced off my head and it was advancing towards you.
Thank you. You saved me. But we'll get it out. Don't worry.
I batted it away. Anyway, so some restaurants there are no pressure because it's brought in. Some restaurants there are no pressure because it's pre-cooked. But if you're talking about that little tip of the iceberg at the top, where everything's cooked to order, that's where the pressure comes in. So at that high level, you have to scream on the orders, you have to conduct it. It's no different to a conductor.
Wonderful.
And the orchestra behind him. But you have to scream, Samaj, away, on order. Where's my fish? Where's my whatever?
Everyone has to say, yes, Marco, yes, Marco. But
well, that would be polite.
Yes, Marco.
Well, that means then you've acknowledged my instruction. So if I go ABC, 1 cod, 1 lamb, 2 beef, and you don't respond, say, yes, Marco, then I don't know whether you've heard me over the noise of the kitchen, do I?
Yeah.
Once you say, yes, Marco, to my instruction, or I call a table away, once you say, yes, Marco, then you have accepted that instruction. If I say 10 minutes later, where's my cod, my 2 beef and my 1 lamb?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, it's going to be 15 minutes. Well, why?
Okay, tell me about your trip here. What's the plan? What do you hope to do here for the couple
Do
of
I
days?
look like a man who has a plan?
Not really, but...
Exactly. Exactly. But what I did find amazingly exciting was, number one, flying to India for the very first time in my life. I thought it was quite magical. I thought it was quite special. I was quite excited because For many years I've wanted to come to India and I've never been invited. But then I made a conscious decision that I didn't want any expectations. So I dissolved everything in my mind, and it was almost as if I blindfolded myself. And then when I walked out of the airport, someone took the blindfold off me. And the journey from the airport into the centre of Mumbai, I have to say, was extraordinary. I mean, number one, I was I was seduced, really.
Really? By traffic?
By everything. It was extraordinary, where you see beauty, you see buildings which are decaying, you see glimpses of the past, you see modernism. You know, it's just extraordinary. You see all this life on the streets. You just go, wow. I mean, the emotional impact was massive. And I thought it was really visually beautiful, where you see trees in these sort of decaying buildings entangling themselves around it to survive. And then you see the street food people. I mean, just amazing.
I have never thought the journey from the airport was that fabulous, but
oh, I loved
what
it.
an insight.
And the smell was amazing.
Oh, wow.
The smell of everything combined. Because really, what I was doing was trying to piece together a jigsaw, this magical jigsaw called Mumbai. And I can't wait to see more.
Tell me about Indian food. The way we see it in UK, where you're from, Indian food is pretty much chicken tikka and tandoori and curry. Have you explored Indian food beyond these 3-4 dishes which sort of everyone knows about?
Well, when I think of Indian cuisine, I think it's without question one of the greatest cuisines in the world. I spent a lot of time in Singapore, where they have a lot of Indian food. But I've also I spent 3 weeks in Sri Lanka. And then I've dined in Michelin-starred restaurants in England, which serve Indian food, bati. And my knowledge of Indian food is not enormous. But what I do know is when something's right and when something is wrong.
Yeah.
It's like today at lunch I had a zamba.
A zamba?
From Goa. It was delicious. It was like a sort of soup/stew with vegetables and big sticks of chili in, and it was absolutely delicious. I thought it was so beautiful and very simple. And what I liked is that it wasn't sophisticated, but actually there was a level of sophistication within the construction and the making of it. So I really liked it. I thought it was clever, actually. And I thought to myself, if I walked into Claridge's, if I walked into the Connaught, if I walked into Savoy, they would not give me a soup as delicious as that. I know that.
Let's talk about your food philosophy on the whole. You've, of course, been a very successful chef for several decades now. At this juncture of your journey, what do you think is the next step, where food and cooking and the way people look at this kind of, the plating and all of that experimentation, where do you think it's going?
Well, firstly, I'm a classicist. And I like simplicity. I think that generosity should be your presentation. I don't like all this knick-knack food, so like little canopies on a plate. You go to a restaurant, you're told that you're having 12, 16, 18, 24 courses of little knick-knacks, little canopies, whatever you want to call them. It's almost conveyor belt cuisine. And it's always tepid. What I like is food to be hearty and hot and delicious. But most importantly, I like food that's comforting. If you think of the old world of gastronomy, food was comforting. When I sometimes go, like I went to Nottingham the other week, and I ended up in this sort of traditional Indian restaurant run by an Indian gentleman who must have been 70, had been there for 40 years. And was it the most sophisticated Indian food I'd ever had? No. But it was very honest and very delicious and very comforting. And you don't always want sophisticated.
Yeah.
Every so often it's nice to have a bit of sophistication, but actually the majority of the time we just want something that's delicious and comforting and affordable. But we like generosity. It's like, I like those old-fashioned Indian restaurants where they bring the rice to the table and the pot with the lid, and they take the lid off, and you can steam it and you can smell it, and then they do the same with the curry, and they take the lid off and you can smell it and it's nice and hot. But then I go to some restaurants now, it's all little pretty pictures on a plate of lukewarm food.
Nobody eats like that
Well,
in India.
not for me, not for me.
Yeah.
But you know, so I like straightforward, as I say in Yorkshire. I don't like it overworked and overfussed. I like it very straightforward, so I'm not speaking in a Yorkshire accent.
I have no idea.
Did you understand me?
Not really.
Or you have to put subtitles on me?
I might have to. But no, so...
I actually like the idea of subtitles across the bottom.
Okay, coming back to the interview, and a question I wanted to ask you, and what a chef like you thinks of this whole movement around the world where people have become really conscious about what they're eating. It's not enough for it to be delicious, but they want to know the ingredients, how they've been sourced, the impact of them on the environment, what it does to their health. Vegan food, for example, is this huge explosion around the world. How does a chef like you look at trends like this? Do you think, oh, it's something that's come and is going to go away, or are you on board?
Well, I was a vegan for 9 months, so I know about being a vegan.
For 9 months, huh?
Yes. So I know what it's like to be a vegan. I lost 5 stone in weight. That's a lot of weight. I don't even measure stones in England. Do you do stones in India?
No, we don't do stones.
So stones is 14 pounds, 5 pounds. I lost 70 pounds,
wow.
which is about 130 kilos.
Wow. You can't lose 130 kilos, Marco.
I did.
30 maybe.
No, I lost a whole lot of
You would
kilos.
die
No.
if you lost
so,
130
no, 70
kilos.
pounds. So 70, sorry, I'm mixing it. So 70 pounds, I'm getting my maths wrong.
It's not important.
It's 70 pounds. I'm now obsessing. 70 pounds is about
35.
About
33.
32 kilos I lost. I lost 32 kilos.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
In 9 months.
And then you said enough, huh?
Yes.
No, I'm not talking about you going vegan. I'm saying someone comes to your restaurant and a lot more
But
people
can I
now
say
want
something?
vegan food, or they don't
But we're
want to eat.
talking minimal still. We're talking minimal of vegans. Minimal. It's less than 1%.
Broader question, let me come back to what I'm trying to ask you. Across the world, people are becoming more conscious about their food in different ways.
I agree.
They're looking at the impact it has on their health, what it means for the environment, are the ingredients locally sourced, cruelty-free food, things like that. How does that fit in with your very classical idea of how food should be treated and loved?
Well, let's park classical.
Yeah.
We're talking about the welfare of animals. We're talking about provenance of food. And I know you have this little movement where it's got to be local. I don't buy into local. If local can give me the best beef, the best lamb, then fine. If I have to go beyond, then I will go beyond. So I'm in Bath and I buy my beef from Scotland. Yes, I can buy beef locally, but it's not of the same quality. I buy my fish from Peterhead, which is way north, because it's the finest, because it's from the Outer Hebrides. So therefore, buy local when possible. But I wouldn't be dictated that I have to buy everything from 25 miles. What I'm dictated by is quality.
That's the ingredients. What about the health consciousness that people have now evolved, where people don't want to eat stuff which is too high cholesterol or fatty?
Well, then they don't have to eat it, do they?
So someone comes to you and says, I want a vegan, low-calorie meal. What do you tell them?
Well, as I said, we maybe sell one vegan in every 500, if maybe more. So we're not talking about a massive demand here, are we? Maybe it's different in India, but I'm talking about my clientele base in my hotel in Bath. I would say, it must be 0.0 something percent. So maybe it's different in India, maybe you have lots of vegans in India.
No, not really. My broader point is that, do you think chefs like yourself will need to evolve and relook at their outlook at food,
because
looking at how health conscious people are getting?
Well, I don't see that. I don't see that trend in the sense that still my best seller is I sell over 60% beef.
Okay, let's come
So that
to...
sort of shoots your theory down, doesn't it? I mean, if they're wanting steak,
Yeah.
I mean, the growth of steakhouses in England is enormous.
No, I'm sure a lot of people
So
do.
beef is on the up. It's like the price.
Yeah.
But so vegans are minimal in the UK. I can't speak for other areas of the world.
Yeah. Would you, what is the way forward in the way you look at food? Would you still look at your same bestsellers and your signature dishes, which of course everyone knows you for?
But
how do you reinvent at this stage?
But it's not about reinvention, it's about refinement. You know, I don't believe you can reinvent. The wheel is round, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't imagine them changing the shape of it, can you? It's not going to happen. It's going to stay around forever, would you agree? I reckon planes will always have two wings, or one large one. I don't think they're going to change that much.
But you have new age chefs who are doing very different kind of things. They're using molecular gastronomy, people are using different ways.
But when you have the label molecular, you don't hear it anymore. Because what was molecular? I mean, molecular was an extension of La Cuisine Nouvelle. La Cuisine Nouvelle was an extension of classic cuisine. So when they say it's molecular, it's just a label they gave it. I mean, a souffle is a souffle. Italian foie gras is Italian foie gras. You know, just because you want to measure poach a chicken at a certain temperature in a water bath in a plastic bag, where's the flavour? I mean, that's what a lot of these so-called molecular chefs did, was put meat in plastic bags, cook it at X temperature, depending which meat they're cooking, bring it out of the bag, just get a quick flash, and then serve it. Where's the flavour? Where's the caramelisation? Let's cook by numbers. We might as well be a bingo caller.
Do you have any impressions at all about the food scene in India? And in cities like Mumbai, where we're going with food?
I work with P&O Cruises. I do about 30, 40 days a year with them. And I would say 90% of their chefs are Indian. So I work for 30, 40 days a year with Indian chefs. And, you know, they're amazing. And every day they say, Marco, what would you care for your lunch? Marco, what would you like for your dinner? And I always tell them, give me a speciality from their region. And so they deliver me the most delicious food. So even though I'd never been to Mumbai before, I've had this wonderful privilege for nearly 13 years where I'm fed the most delicious curries by cooks who learnt their trade in India.
You know, there are a lot of young chefs in India who possibly look up to you. I'm sure they do. What would you
I'm a bit
advise?
taller than the average.
What would your advice be to chefs right now who are trying out new things?
Well, I can't, it's not for me to give them advice. That's not my job, unless they ask for advice. What I think is important in life is to inspire people, to share your stories with people, to share your journey with people. I think that's way more important than dishing out the advice. Because to dish out the advice it's almost patronizing. And I wouldn't want people to give me advice unless I ask them for advice.
Okay, well, any experience you can share, or any insights with them?
If a young boy or girl, young woman, young man came to see me and said, Marco, I'm thinking of becoming a cook, a chef, what advice would you give me? I'd tell them to, number one, think about the type of establishment they'd like to work in. When they decide which establishment they wish to work in, then put your career into the correct hands and not the wrong hands. Because if you put your career into the correct hands, what they will do is always teach you the correct way and the right way. It might be a bit tougher and a bit harder because standards, you have to push to get standards. But if you put your career into the wrong hands, then what's going to happen is you're going to learn bad habits. And that's not going to allow you to realize your dream. And I always have a 5-year plan. 5 years, then reassess, and then do the next 5 years. All through my career since I was 17 years old, I've done that.
Fantastic. So here's to many 5-year plans. Thank you so much,
It's been
Marco.
nice chatting with you.
Same here, Marco.
You made my life so easy.
Great to talk to you.